At this time, we'll open the meeting for the Carver Finance Committee, July 13th, 2020. The time is 7 o'clock. We stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Meeting's being recorded by Area 58. Thank you. I don't see anybody here for public comment. We're going to move to reorganization of the board, and I would ask that Meg take as moderator just for the purpose of electing a new chairman, if you'd be so kind. So I will sit down. You can open the nominations.
I don't know what I'm doing here, so
I make a nomination to nominate Alan Germain as chairman of the board. I second.
First and seconded.
Any discussion?
Any further nominations you would
Any further nominations?
And you can close the nomination.
Okay, we're closing the nominations.
Now you can vote on the nominee.
Can I just open the discussion? Can I just do that?
You can do that if you want.
Okay, that's what we're doing.
Open for discussion.
Open for discussion.
Hearing none.
Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of Alan Germain as chairman?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. I'll abstain. So you have. Thank you very much.
Well, that's not an against, that's an abstention.
What do you want to do it again?
No, just saying.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm happy to do it. We would like I'll entertain a nomination for vice chair.
I'll nominate Catherine Bunzel for vice chair.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for Kate Banzel for vice chair. Any further nominations? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of Kate being vice chair?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
I was
Oh
gonna
my
say Kate, but the name thing
condolences.
threw me off.
Doesn't that throw you off?
Report from Mr. Siedentoff, unless you want me to go right into, you're going to be a little bit longer than maybe Dave is, so I figured I'd let Dave go. Do you mind?
No, I don't mind at all.
Okay. Thank you for coming, Dave. The reason we asked you, and I'm very grateful that you came tonight, was we just wanted to get a status on where are we with the playground, the last $40,000 transfer, and we kind of wanted to make sure that was still going to be adequate. Are you guys okay? Can we?
Yep.
Is this going to get done with this, or are we in
Okay.
trouble?
So where we stand, the original budget, as you know, was $600,000.
Yep.
With the transfer of $40,000 from the Finance Committee to help close out some things we had, which thank you very much for that. Right now, I met with Meg last Thursday to go over the balance, at which time we had, after I closed out a few things from that $640,000, I had a balance of $3,129.39. Since that, I had a piece of playground equipment I was waiting on come in for $943, and I had some more plumbing supplies come in for a total of $374.97, which leaves me right now with a balance of $1,811, excuse me, and 6 cents. Now, the only other thing, there's two other things I know of that will be coming in for sure. There are, that the rec committee had requested was locks. I had to change the locks. They want those locks on the concession stand, if you call it. There's 2 bathrooms we're remodeling because one of their things was they wanted bathrooms available for anyone. The bathrooms were there for baseball, I believe. Adam, is that correct? Baseball would be in charge. Baseball had one and softball had kind of control, if you will, of one. And there was really no oversight. We're in the process of remodeling both bathrooms. They're nothing glorious. They're in a cinder block building, but we did gut them. We put in new fixtures, new water closets, new sinks, new touchless faucets. So that is in the process of being done. The materials are there. I'm just waiting for the plumber to be able to find time to come back and finish it up. So that will be done. The other thing is they wanted those bathrooms now, because they're going to be open more hours and not necessarily when any key holder is going to be there, to make them available for the playground. They wanted to put them on some type of timed lock, which is a little bit more difficult than it sounds. We don't have Wi-Fi out there. We don't have a lot out there. So I did find the standalone locks, because I need 2 for both bathrooms, which are coming for $1,900. And what they'll do is I will plug my laptop into them, set a time schedule, whatever the rec committee wants, if they want them. 7 days a week, I assume, the hours I'll program in. They'll be installed. They can be changed via my laptop and a connecting USB cable. And they also have a key override, obviously, because bringing electricity to them would have been very expensive. At that point, I might as well tie it in with the town hall system. So they are going to be a battery system. Now, being...
No electricity in the building?
No, there is electricity, but to get it on a
Yeah, I got you.
communication. So there's a key override. So in case the battery ever fails, I can still get in with a hard key, which I will have in my office. So that bill is coming, and also there'll be some labor for the plumber. So that will deplete the $1,800. I would imagine rec probably has a little bit of money in their account to cover that. So as far as the original construction, I'm done with the construction project. That pretty much closes out what was on the original.
So you're maybe $100 short, maybe 200 tops.
Correct.
And when Meg gets up, we'll ask her what rec committee's got.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we can ask her right now. What's rec committee got, do you know?
Sorry?
What's rec committee got?
For bills or invoices?
No, not for employees. I think for operating
Yeah,
budget down.
I don't have that.
no big deal.
I can tell you,
Probably about $5,000.
Okay, that's all we need to know.
there is, they've taken in donations, which right now, I believe last I knew, were $9,100. I did not touch any of that for the construction.
Okay.
So that is still there for their purposes. And I believe they're building, I don't know if they're a donation, I don't want to speak for them. I know they are getting 4 picnic tables and they want some additional benches out there, which I would have to get parts for.
So, Dave, thanks for the update. So it sounds overall like the health of the project is in pretty good standing then. The
Yes.
40,000 transfer, you've kind of got what you need and
Yep.
the end is near. Like, is
Yep.
there a date for sort of opening when it's available for folks?
Well, the holdup right now, I believe, and I don't know, like I said, I don't want to speak for rec again, but I know we're waiting on this. If you're looking at the 2 fields, we'll call it the minor field to the left where the smaller kids play. There's 10 foot of netting we have. The holdup is Eversource. Not throwing them under the bus, but that is, I'm waiting for them to come disconnect the power because the power that goes to the snack shack is close to the poles where they have to hang the netting. So they need the power disconnected so they can go up in the bucket to hang the netting. So I'm waiting for a disconnect from Eversource. I'm hoping it's going to be this week, but I cannot get a definitive answer.
Cool.
So that's just a disconnect, come back at the end of the day, reconnect it, because they'll have that hung in a day.
Great.
The netting.
Awesome.
After that, once the bathrooms, like I said, I spoke with the plumber on Friday. He had to work the weekend at his primary job, and he was hoping to get back there maybe this week. He's probably got about, he thought, maybe 8 hours left to get everything up and running.
So I'll provide a little bit of information or update just based on the conversation we just had downstairs at the rec committee. As the baseball president, I was down there to sort of get an update on where things stand with the playground and with the whole project. With respect to the netting, what we just discussed with the recreation committee is we're actually going to modify our schedule to move the older kids to the majors field, which is a field off to the right where the netting isn't a safety concern over there. And we'll only utilize that field in the short term for a T-ball, so it's not a concern for foul balls getting onto the playground from T-ball. And so for the time being, until the netting can be done, until Eversource gets out there, we'll move the other kids over to the majors field. It requires some modifications to our schedule, but we have that under our control. So we'll do that in the short term to accommodate that.
Like I say, and I'm hoping it's this week, Adam, but they can't give me a definite date yet.
Yeah, and so our plan right now is to open our baseball season Friday night at 5 PM, so,
Great.
yep. We'll have a couple games Friday night, and then a whole day of baseball on Saturday.
And what's the story in the playground? Is the playground going to be open for the kids, or?
I think they were just waiting on the netting. That's up to, not my call. I would say that's recreation. That's
Mr.
cool.
Chairman, very briefly, we just spoke to this downstairs. The intent is to have the playground open, and we're calling it soft open, because there's still equipment that needs to be set up or fixed in the playground. The problem, though, is to try to ask people to stay out of the playground during the other events, and that's just not practical to have people stay out of it. So, we call the soft open, is what was discussed downstairs. That, along with the president of the league making some accommodations for how and when they're going to play, should work in the short term. But we're going to get Eversource in here ASAP. We have to
That's awesome.
contact
I know
some
that
of
there's
our
got to be,
legislators.
everybody's got to be hot to trot. I mean, the playground's been a long time coming, so there's got to be
And-
kids chomping at the bit.
Actually, the two pieces of equipment that need, one we were waiting on a part, arrived in my office today. The other one they have to do some work on. As soon as that part arrived in my office, I made a call. They will be out here tomorrow. So
Nice.
those will be fixed. One will be installed, the other one will be repaired. So playground itself, the playground equipment will be 100% usable.
Adam, not to put you on the spot, so soft opening would be this Friday at 5 o'clock then?
Yeah,
Right.
the plan, based on the discussion we just had with Recreation, was like a 5 o'clock soft opening on Friday, with the intent to have a grand opening celebration, ribbon cutting at some point after that.
That's great, because to their point, it'd be impossible to keep kids off of this weekend with all the baseball games going on, so it's good.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Completely off topic, and we can put this on an agenda, so I don't want to railroad the process. There was some comments, and in fact, I actually inquired. There's $120,000 in a maintenance fund for siding, painting, and caulking of the town hall. That money is still sitting in an account somewhere. Is there any plans to do that? Only because the last time we were standing outside the town hall, it's looking a little bit like
I can
shabby.
bring you up to date on that. So originally, in the original back capital plan, I'm probably gonna go back, Alan, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'm not sure what date it came online, to repaint town hall.
I think it was $40,000 a year for 3 years at
Correct.
town meeting.
And that was the original plan, and that would have painted town hall. However, once I looked at it, when I came on board and started looking at it, it's not worth painting. What was put on this building 20 years ago was Homosoap board, and a lot of it is soft and spongy.
That's what it was the day that it was made.
So, in my opinion, and there's some sides that need complete. The bottom 6 courses around this building are soft. You can find spots that are still good. There's a couple walls that are completely no good. So at that point, we're looking at re-siding the building.
So that's gonna be a lot more than
So,
120,000
yeah.
we got sitting in the account.
Yep. So that'll be coming up in capital. And what I would suggest, I'm looking at options, they make a vinyl, I mean, obviously your cheapest option would be regular vinyl siding. I don't know if that's a look you want for your town hall. There's options you can go with, like is on the fire
Because the vinyl
station.
shingles look good, because it.
You can
they
do a
look
sh-
like shake and they're.
Yeah, you can
painted
do
as free.
a sheet shake vinyl.
Yeah, yeah.
You can do a cement board, like is on, going on the police station. You can do a hardy plank like's on the fire station. So there's options.
Right.
But the reason town hall has not been painted at this point is because it's beyond. It's not, would not be a wise expense just to put paint on it. You're gonna be replacing what the paint went on within a 5-year period anyways. So
I
that
just
is,
didn't want-
that isn't on a radar.
I just didn't want Facebook running away with the reasons why we haven't done this yet, because, the money's been stolen and all this other nonsense. I just didn't want it to go off the rails, which it usually does. You can open a Facebook page now, and you can, as you open the page, you see the wagon wheels go by as they run off the train, so, I just didn't want to get into that, but, I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad I brought it up and you answered the question, so I appreciate it very much. We're looking very, very forward to having the playground open. I'm glad that there was enough funding to do what you needed to do and everything got done, and we seem to be in great shape going forward, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just,
Yes.
the rest of the siding above the 6 courses, the bottom 6 courses, how is that faring? Is that,
It's scattered.
Yeah.
There's some hole, if on your southern exposure, most of that wall is no good. And I don't know underneath that if there's moisture damage or not. This corner as well.
yeah,
There's somewhere it's pulled away from,
just moisture expanding in?
yeah. So it's gonna be, I don't know until I start to get some of that siding off, how much further we have to go.
Right. So it makes sense to do the whole building and
Exactly.
in new stuff, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Anybody else? Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
welcome.
Meg? Year-end closeout and current financial forecast.
Okay, so we can start with the year-end transfers, I guess?
If you want to do the year-end transfers, I'm fine with that.
Sure.
Everybody has a copy?
Do you also
Page
include the
3 of your
spreadsheet in the packet?
I have the spreadsheets in the packet.
So the spreadsheet just, I have to do an exercise to try to figure out what we've got for deficits, but the way we vote things at town meeting, we vote it as general government, public safety, public works, health and human services, et cetera. So as long as each of those categories does not exceed their total, then we don't have a deemed deficit. But we do hold departments to their own budget. So, for example, under the police, their expense line was in a deficit of almost $19,000, but they're also closing out $20,000 in salaries. So the two lines together wash out, and we don't consider that to be a deficit. Because once upon a time, we did vote the budget as police salaries, police expense, and however you voted at town meeting, that's the level of detail you're held to. So we have a little bit more flexibility now. So after this whole exercise, the only true deficits I was left with was $16,896.45 in townwide expenses, which is actually streetlights. $168.19 in the finance committee operating budget, and $16,058.47 in the legal services line. I've prepared a reserve fund transfer of $17,000 for the legal line, because what I've got, I did $17,000 even though the deficit is $16,058, because if you look at that encumbrance column of $15,000, that's the select board estimating what they're going to need, so I just put a little cushion in there in case the bill went over. So $17,000 from the reserve fund to the legal line. And usually our legal line is under budget every year. In fact, it's often used as a funding source for other lines. But this year it was a bit higher demand on that, which was unforeseen. And the purpose of the reserve fund is for unforeseen expenses. So that's why I'm making this request of you tonight.
What was the total amount in that line for the whole year? What was that budgeted amount? You know?
I think it was like $110,000.
So we've gone through that plus 17,000.
Do you know what we used it for?
So the legal bill, when it comes to my office, the detail of the services are whited out. The select board's office is the one that has the detail of charges.
Okay.
But- So there's that one. Did we want to take a vote on that one,
Yeah, that
or?
one we'll deal with. Anybody else have any questions on this $17,000 transfer?
It's hard to weigh in on it when you don't have the detail, right?
Well, you're not gonna get a detail on every expense that was put out in legal. Obviously, we're drawing a lot of conclusions, and I'm doing the same thing you're doing as to why we are in the hole here
Well, I mean, one of the things I could tell you right off the bat is we do have a lot more calls to our legal counsel on solar issues. And I can also say that there's some personnel issues
Yep.
that have increased this year,
And
so.
I think the playground situation also complicated things, because there was a
Well,
little.
That actually,
This is
that
last
100% is true. That
That's
was, that was.
This
Yeah,
is
that-
last year's, this is the beginning of the lawsuits last year and the defending of those lawsuits and so forth and so on. So this is the end result. We've gone through the 112, or
And-
whatever it is, 120 plus.
We do need to pay our bills, and
Yeah.
it's unforeseen, and
I'm fine with the transfer. I think that we just want answers as to where the money went, that's all.
I think we all do know where it is,
Well,
where it
pretty
went, is the personnel issues that were happening here that we are
Yeah.
aware of, you know, solar and the playground, and to be 17,000 over for, you know, legal fees is not horrible. I mean, not what we want, but it's not horrible. It could have been a lot worse.
Sure could have been.
Would you entertain a motion?
Anybody else? We can have a motion for discussion, sure.
I make a motion to approve the $17,000 transfer to the legal line.
Motion made and seconded to transfer $17,000 from the reserve fund to the legal line. Any further discussion?
I think I'd just like to say that I don't really have a problem with it under the circumstances, only because I can sort of infer, like we just discussed, what this is related to. But to Patrick's point, I think I don't necessarily want to set a precedent that, and I know this is not your intent tonight, Meg, being the face of this request, but to approve a $17,000, transfer without a lot of color as to why. We went through a similar thought process about a month ago when the $40,000 was requested for the baseball field project, for the playground project. We wanted a little bit more color on specifically what it was being used for and what the status of the project was. So, I just think it just makes sense to always reiterate that as much detail as possible as to what the funds will be used for. Or
I don't have a
why.
problem. I'll send a letter to the select board tomorrow requesting a detailed itemized list of every expense they had for legal from the beginning of fiscal year 20 until the year end.
Yeah,
And we'll have this for the next meeting, and we'll know where every penny went.
Yeah, and I think
I don't
just-
have any problem requesting that. I don't have any problem discussing that. I think we have a right to know where it went. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that from Meg's standpoint, she can't provide it because all we're gonna get from her is a series of bills
Right.
that are
That are
gonna.
white.
You're gonna have bills that will have a title, but then not like a.
Right, everything's whited out, so you can't, right, so everything's redacted, like it's the federal government, so.
And I totally understand. I think even a summary of sort of why we had this anomaly, because to Meg's point, it's typically an underfunded line budget item.
That's right.
So,
So this is the highest legal expense year we've had.
Yeah, I've never seen this line go over before.
Just to add to Adam's feedback, we spent a lot of time in the FY '21 budget, right, Michael, going through the list. We didn't spend much time on legal. We just said, well, it's usually around 100,
That's right.
110.
And that's what it stays.
So now that we're over, I'd like the detail behind it. We might not get the detail, but as much detail as possible, just because next year when we review this line item, what can we learn from this?
Well, I think what could probably definitely be provided is maybe it's not each and every specific case, but you could lump it into general categories in terms of like ZBA or personnel or whatever.
Yep,
I think it's incumbent upon us to ask the question.
I will make that request. Any further discussion? Hearing none. The motion is 17,000 to the legal line from the reserve fund. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Okay, so the only other two deficits to be addressed are the Board of Selectmen expense line and then the Finance Committee expense line. We did have a surplus in the health insurance line that is under the category of employee benefits. So generally, if it was earlier in the year, we would have the option of having the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee vote to transfer from employee benefits to general government. because it does require both bodies to vote between categories. But there is a law that allows transfers from May 1st to July 15th, again, with the two boards. So that was the area with the greatest surplus, was health insurance. So I'm requesting $17,000 from the health insurance line to the Board of Selectmen expense line, and $168.19 from the health insurance line to the Finance Committee expense line.
Obviously, the FinCom expense line is, just for some background, we never had a really decent-sized budget because we never needed one. We increased it for FY '21 because of the stipends. And it had set back with 5 members of the board, and no one ever, remember, we caught that and it got increased. Also, last year, we did the townwide sustainability study, which we brought in Kelly to come in and take the minutes for that, and then Mary Ann was doing the minutes for our regular meetings, so we were having 2 meetings a month, both being recorded, and they get paid to do this. So that money never got increased either. So this is why we're ending up with this $168 shortfall. Then we had some of the MMA stuff that we all went to and stuff like that, and then our annual dues with the Mass Association of Finance Committees and all that stuff. So that's why we're in the red, the $168. Tell me why the selectmen's budget is short $17,000.
I believe that's due to contractual payments. What is it here? I believe it's for contractual payments, and I should have had it in front of me. I can go look very quickly if you want me to go.
If you wouldn't mind,
Yeah, it'll take me like 2 minutes.
you go right ahead.
Okay.
Don't run. I'm assuming everybody wants to know why they're $17,000. Welcome, Mr. Selectman. How are you this evening? It's good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Assume you know everybody on the board? All of you know Jim Hoffman? Adam, I'm not sure you know him.
I don't know him very well. Jim's nice to meet you.
I've heard the name, saw the signs.
You guys all excited to get the playground open and up and running and get the ball fields open and up and running? That's gonna be great over there. Really is.
Past the finish line. Yes, from. No,
Kids are gonna really have a blast. They're gonna really enjoy that. It just made the most amount of sense. You got, the families can all stay together while the kids are, one's in the ball field, and it just makes sense.
Okay, just confirming my data before I speak.
I'm sorry?
I was just confirming my data before I speak out of turn.
You could have
I-
spoken, we wouldn't have held you to it. Well, yeah, we would.
It was due to the contract it was to Dan Badger for Health and Human Services. It must have been the senior center study, and I believe they expanded the scope of it.
Okay.
So that's where the majority of the deficit was coming from.
Is that the survey? Gentleman who did the survey?
I think it was that work,
Okay.
Yeah.
some of it,
Okay.
sounds like it.
Anybody else? You need a motion to approve this, or you just want me to sign off on this form?
Probably a motion would be best, I guess. I mean, it's up to you, because it's supposed to be the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen
Okay, well,
approval.
it looks like, yeah, the Board of Selectmen are going to take this matter up also.
They have taken a vote to defer that to the town administrator.
Sorry?
They've deferred that authorization to the town administrator. That's been a standing practice for several years.
Okay. I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to approve $17,000 from the health insurance line to the Board of Selectmen expense line and $168.19 from the health insurance line to the Finance Committee expense line.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to transfer a total of $17,168.19 from the health insurance line item to the Board of Selectmen expense line and the FinCom expense line. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. You have your copy you want me to sign, or you want me to sign one that I have here?
That doesn't matter, this one is,
Well, I'm not gonna give it over the three, put the punch holes in. So, it's trying to be nice. Okay, while I have you, Meg, what's the status on the $500,000 that was transferred from the Conservation Commission Land Acquisition Fund that was supposed to go to the legislature to have them approved to put it back into our capital reserve fund?
I have asked about this a couple of times, but I have not heard that there has been any movement on this as far as I know.
There's been no inquiry, nothing has been forwarded to,
Nothing has been communicated to me that it has, no.
not even to the governor's office to have a motion before the legislature, so.
It may have, but that's not been communicated to me.
Guess I'll have to add that to my selectmen's request letter. Current financial forecast and the outlook, what do you think?
Well, there's some good news, some bad news, but overall, it's neutral news. So I posted the June receipts today, and in terms of our cash flow is definitely better than what we were projecting.
Really?
Yeah, it is better than what we were projecting.
How much better?
Well, we are projected with a 30% decrease in local receipts, and we're up about 9.2 million more than we thought we were going to be. I mean, we actually thought our cash was going to be at about 11.8 million at this time of the year, but it's 21.1 million. So that's good news. The not so good news is that this is the first time I've ever actually seen a revenue deficit before. Actually, I shouldn't say that. So I'm taking, because when I was doing my analysis earlier today, I was looking at the interest income and miscellaneous income. Those both came in significantly above projected, but that's only because the interest income is derived from the bond proceeds that we have for the police station, and the miscellaneous income is usually a recurring revenue source. Elaine does a lot to pursue Maya credits from our insurance, our liability insurance, so that tends to be recurring. But so we closed the year with a $361,000 surplus in revenue, but I've never seen it that tight before. That's on local receipts, not all over revenue. But then our taxes actually came in less than projected, about 70,000. So I've never actually seen that happen before. So we're definitely, I mean, a lot of it's penalties and interest because the select board did take a vote to suspend penalties and interest on any bills that were due after middle of March to June 30th. So that definitely had a hit to our revenue.
So this is the money from July 1, this is penalties and interest as of July 1?
No, it's for fiscal 20. So it's the June, July to June for fiscal 20. Surprisingly, our meals tax met our projection, but it was down in the last quarter. We just got our payment from March to May, and that was $23,000, whereas we usually receive $33,000. But I was surprised that it came in over budget at all, actually.
Surprised that that's all the shortfall was.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see, so local receipt, so the revenue, we squeaked by. We do have about $725,000 in expenditure closeouts, which I think is pretty standard. That's usually about where we are. So I think we're going to see it reflected in our free cash. Our free cash has been about 1.2 million, but with the revenue being pretty tight, I think we're going to see a decrease to free cash. But I'm also concerned about it. I don't see the revenue starting to turn around yet, so I don't think it's. Right now, with the way things are, I don't think it's going to get worse, but I don't see it getting significantly better, which means I think that we do still need to consider cuts for the fall special town meeting.
Yeah, but it's not as dark a cloud as we thought.
No, it's not. That, I mean, I think the positive of it is that it wasn't continuing to decline. It kind of declined and then plateaued.
On the real estate shortfalls, as far as real estate taxes is, what's the split between commercial, residential, you know?
No, in terms of collections?
Yeah,
No, that information I'd have to get from the treasure collector or
I was
assessor.
just wondering if it was the residents versus the commercial businesses.
Well, and I know that our treasure collector, she suspended demands on taxes as well, but she's just re-implemented the demands. I know she's going to start up the process of tax title collections again, because we had suspended all of that, just to be fair to residents during the pandemic. And whether it's commercial or residential, all of it will end up in tax title if it remains unpaid for a certain period of time.
Meg, do you have a sense of when that meals tax is realized? For
So
instance,
this,
like if I go have dinner, if I had dinner last week, that's not showing up in
right.
reports now, right?
Well, so the June, the one the payment I received in June was for March to May of this year. So it's quarterly, it's a quarterly payment, but it is fairly, it's not like it's way back, a reflection of earlier in the fiscal year or anything
Now,
like
is
that.
that, so March to May is actual revenue in the restaurant during that time period, not credit card receipts during that time period?
It would be, well, whatever meals tax is charged on, anytime meals tax is charged.
My concern, Mara, the reason why I asked the question, right, if you start to look at like 30-day periods, right, if credit card receipts are paid.
Oh, you're talking about a
after
delay?
somebody eats,
Yeah.
right? So theoretically, something that was paid in early March was actually food sold in late March. I mean, in early May was food sold in late March for
Yeah.
credit card.
Yeah.
That's sort of delay. So
Yeah.
we might still see the ramifications of that meals tax hitting in the next payment.
I suspect that the next quarter will probably be down even more, and
Right.
given that Edaville and King Richard's Fair have said that they're, because we have one quarter that's always the largest, and that's King Richard's Fair.
Right.
So with that not being open, that's definitely going to affect FY '21's
Right.
meals tax revenue.
Yeah, I think we'll continue to see that drop quite a bit.
I don't think it's gonna be significant enough though, because the real big restaurant chains file their meals tax monthly. The smaller operations do it on a quarterly basis, so they're actually, as of May 30th, they're taking into account that entire quarter. Actually, it should be June 30th, isn't it? It'd be January, February, March, then April, May, June.
You would think so. I don't know if it had to do when the meals tax first was implemented, that they went quarterly from there, because it does, I mean, March to May makes no sense. That's not a quarter
Yeah.
to anyone.
Yeah, unless they do December, January, February, then it's May, but God only knows what they do.
But I mean, also keep in mind too that the meals tax is $125,000. That's what we project. I mean, you could, if the market were really to turn around, you could easily make up for that with motor vehicle excise. But I think people are also maybe not buying. Well, I don't know. I've actually heard that people are buying a lot of used cars. So
They cannot keep automobiles on dealership.
Yeah.
I talked to a friend who's an auto broker this
Yeah,
weekend, and
yeah.
like Toyota sold out of Tacomas. They can't keep them on the lot.
So I mean, if you saw motor vehicle excise go up, because we didn't meet our projection for motor vehicle excise this year, and what we had seen over the last few years is motor vehicle excise was going like that, and then this year it kind of came down. So if that were to turn around in the next fiscal year, that could easily make up for the meals tax. But I still think that you're not going to see levels of free cash like we've seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah, but I don't think we're gonna be so deep into the red that the sky is falling.
No.
I think we're gonna be in pretty decent shape.
I mean, provided that there's not another shutdown though, too.
Anyone else? No? Guess you're off the hook.
Thank you, Meg,
No
Thank you
problem.
so much, as always.
and thanks for running for that info.
What's that?
How's your fiscal close going?
Well, it's going to be it's going to be a little bit challenging this year, just because we are, given that we had one retirement, and I have someone who has been out on sick leave, and we have one person that's furloughed, so that's 3 positions that we've been down. So the assessing office in particular is pretty weak right now. But we're going to start the process. The finance department restructure was voted at town meeting, so we'll hopefully be making some progress there. But it is a matter of, you've got to do interviews, and I think there might be some shuffling of positions. So that's a little bit of a distraction from the year-end process. I think once I get the assistant finance director position into place, that will help significantly, but there's also a learning curve there. So, I mean, it's not terribly behind the schedule that I want to be, but there is a very tight time crunch in the fall, which is you have a free cash certification and your tax rate recap certification. If we also have a town meeting, and there's a lot more focus on projecting and seeing what we need to do in terms of current fiscal year cuts, that's another layer that's on there. So just keeping our fingers crossed, hoping we pull it off. They will come back the first week of November. They've already done their first round of testing, yeah.
We're gonna stop budget discussion early this year, or just kind of hold off until,
I think Rick's feeling is not to start quite as early, which to me is good just because you don't know your state aid numbers. I mean, we don't know FY21 state aid numbers right now, too. And also, just to throw in there, too, CARES Act update, we just submitted our first, and that's another layer. We just submitted our first package for reimbursement, which was $212,000. So there will be 4 rounds of reimbursements, and Carver is slated for just shy of $1 million of reimbursements. I think it would be very difficult to come up with $1 million worth of items that we'd need, but I'm hoping, and I've heard, there's discussion that maybe at some point it would switch and you could use it as a revenue offset, which would be tremendously helpful, just because, as I was just saying, we are seeing revenues dip, so that would be really helpful. But we have 4, I think,
They'll take any time that you've spent, so any employee
yeah.
who's spent anything on COVID tracking should be.
Yeah, I've had some discussions with the county on that, and they're adamant that only if it's overtime. Like, you can't, if you've already
Yeah.
budgeted, you can't submit for reimbursement for regular salaries, because that person would have gotten paid one way or another, so, yeah, we're trying. Yeah. But the vast majority of that reimbursement is going to be work from home technology, just because I think we were all caught unawares this last time around.
anyone else? Thank you so much. Have a great night. Minutes of the June 29th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to give a glance?
Yep.
This was the very short meeting that was held in that, just before town meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of the June 29th, 2020 meeting as written. Yes,
That was before the town meeting?
that was the one just before town meeting.
Doesn't make any, probably a big difference, but I wasn't there, and my name's on the list, so.
It's under there as absent. You're under
Yeah.
absent.
You're under absent,
Yeah. You and Julie.
Then that's right.
so it's correct.
I missed the absent.
Motion made and seconded to accept the meeting minutes as written. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
One abstain.
That's right, one abstention, sorry. Okay, I have no topics. Next meeting date. What's the pleasure?
Are we meeting again in July, or we wait until August?
I don't think there's much going on for July at this point,
Yeah, I think wait until
unless
August.
something blows up, and I don't see that happening, so.
The Monday nights still work?
Yeah, Monday night, I think, still works for everybody. The only one that's frowning over that was Meg, and she's gonna move her piano lessons. It just, Monday nights work so well for everyone. We tried the Thursday, it was a disaster.
Yeah, it was.
Mhm.
So, and Tuesdays and Wednesdays, between select board, planning board, conservation stuff, that doesn't work so well. Mondays seems to be the
Third.
easy way to go, and it's good for everybody.
3rd or the 10th, be the first 2 Mondays.
Yeah, wanna do the 10th, or even the 17th of August? We can push this way. I don't see anything going on. We're not gonna stop budgets. I do wanna get an answer on the legal number. See if we can get some more information on where this $500,000 transfer from the Concom went. So,
I think the 17th.
17th, or it's up to everybody else. I'm okay with the 10th also, so what's the pleasure?
I'm fine with either.
I'll go with the 17th.
17.
17th it is. August 17th at 7 PM here. Good? Cool. Okay. Any comments from the members?
I do. I had a request from Ellen Blanchard. She wanted a correction to our minutes of December 2nd, 2019 meeting. We have her years as the Director of Assessing were wrong in it. She was employed from 2001 to 2016, and she asked that that be corrected.
From when?
A meeting in December 3rd, 2019. I told her I would bring it up.
December 3rd,
Yes.
Yeah, I remember she came.
Or
2019.
December 2nd, I'm sorry, December
December
2nd.
And she has a problem with what?
Of what's in our minutes for her time worked in town hall.
And it should be,
It should be from 2001 to 2016.
What did we write?
I forget what we wrote.
I'll have to go look it up.
It was different than that.
If that is the case, I'm not gonna just arbitrarily change it, so I'll make a copy of those minutes, we'll come back into session on August, and then, we can make that correction. I kinda like, I really, I'm not even sure that I wanna do that to those minutes. I think I might just include it in,
Like an addendum.
just do it in the next meeting. I don't really wanna go a year back and correct minutes. I think we'll do it as a current notice, and we'll put it in the current minutes. Why don't we just do that, Kelly? Let's just put this in the current
Why
minutes.
it's being brought up?
She just asked that it be corrected, and I told her I'd bring it to the board.
I don't have a problem putting in the correct information in today's meeting. I'm not gonna go back to last December and start modifying minutes that have been posted and sitting on the website for the last, 10 months, 8 months, 9 months.
Okay.
So we'll just correct the dates to 2001 and 2016, and that this is to correct an error of the December 2nd, 2019 minutes, which are gonna still be left alone. But we'll put it in here for these minutes today to make that correction. Is that all right with everybody?
Yep.
Yes.
Kate, you had asked for a TA update as part of this meeting, or questioned if it was on the agenda.
What's
Alan,
in
is
the-
that something is that a standing agenda item typically on these?
The TA update, yes, usually it's standard, yeah.
Okay. Is
You don't
that,
see them here though, do you?
no, but I wasn't on the agenda, so is that something we'll add going forward?
The reason it wasn't on the agenda is we had a thing coming in from Meg tonight.
Okay.
So I didn't want to have the two of them hashing over the same thing. The next meeting we come to, there would be an update from the town administrator. I don't know that there's anything he's gonna tell us tonight that Meg didn't. So, it wasn't slighting anyone. It just, we had the year end. Typically, the year end is from Meg.
Yep.
Even last year, our year end, Michael was in attendance, but Meg came in and gave the whole presentation. Michael had very little to say about it, because it's the year end and it's Meg. So, that's where that was at. So next month, we'll go back to the normal
Cool.
update. Anyone else? You're slipping.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Third. Motion made and seconded to adjourn. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night. Meg took off.